In today's video, we are talking once more to Alan Graves, the CEO of DoNotAge. Alan will be answering some questions you left for him on my community page, as well as tell us what is new in the world of longevity/anti-aging supplements. Alan, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Claudia.
It's always a pleasure to have you. We got a bunch of questions from viewers, and I know you have some news to tell us as well about DoNotAge, so let's jump right into it. The first question, and it's one I get quite frequently, is for somebody who wants to start. You know, this longevity supplement world can be quite confusing, and you guys have some really good supplements for a big variety. Mm-hmm. So if somebody wants to start, let's say they don't take any longevity supplements, what would you say the number one and then 3 or 4?
Yeah, so the number one in terms of what's most popular is SIRT6 Activator. So I think most people, if they just want to start with one product, they go with that. The other alternative is people will go for the starter pack, which contains 6 of our most popular ingredients. So you've got your SIRT6 Activator, NMN, TMG, Sulfura Boost, Resveratrol, and quercetin.
I always say NMN. That is my desert island supplement. It's the one I've seen the most change from. So I'm curious why your number one supplement would be SIRT6 Activator.
Well, that's the one that most people go for. It's the one that we see the biggest impact with. NMN is number 2. So again, NMN is also popular. NMN used to be the most popular supplement that we provided back in sort of 2020, 2021. And then since we realized the power of SIRT2 and 6 and got all these scientists backing it, saying that SIRT6 is the most important longevity gene, SIRT6 Activator has since overtaken it. But obviously my advice would be to take both.
So just to backtrack, for somebody who hasn't been here, you just mentioned SIRT2 6 is also known as the longevity SIRT2. Let's just briefly cover SIRT2s. What are they and why is SIRT2 6 nicknamed longevity SIRT2?
No problem. So there are 7 SIRT2s, and they are proteins in your body that go around and do the repair work. They're not very original names. SIRT1, SIRT2, all the way to SIRT7. And SIRT1 was popularized because it's activated by resveratrol, and SIRT6 is obviously activated by SIRT6 Activator, and that is the most important of these SIRT2s in terms of aging and longevity and staying healthy as you get older. So when we look at centenarians, for example, healthy centenarians, so people that are over 100 years old, still have all their faculties up here and can still move and are active with their bodies, they have very high levels of SIRT6 activity. And basically, the analogy I give for SIRT2s is they go around and do the repair work in the body. So if you think of aging as an accumulation of damage, the SIRT2 is what goes around and does the repair work. And when you're young, when we're all younger, those SIRT2s are more active and they can do their repair work better and they can do more of it. And as we get older, these SIRT2s become less and less active and less efficient at doing the job that they're intended to do. And so it's our job to reactivate those SIRT2s with things like SIRT6 Activator and resveratrol in order to put the body back in a youthful state and allow it to reverse aging, as people call it. Is an easy way to say it, but really what you're doing is just putting the body back into a youthful state.
Now, to be honest, I take SIRT2 6. I take it because I believe in the science. I don't notice anything, but I've told you before, I also give it to Sam, my dog who's right here. Yeah. I started her on NMN. She's 14 now, 14 and a half actually. I started her on NMN about 3 years ago and saw a huge difference. But then I put on SIRT2 6 or SIRT6 Activator, and I saw an even bigger difference. But now you guys have the dog supplement, and it's just, right. That is my favorite now, my favorite supplement, because I love her so much. She, and I've shared this with you before, Sam, again, she's 14, she's doing amazing, but she's a Chihuahua mix, and she has this habit of peeing in a handstand to make herself bigger. Mm-hmm. And so over the last year, she kept doing that and she kept hurting her shoulder. So I would massage her shoulder and it was better. And then she'd do a handstand again. And it was this cycle of me massaging it and her doing a handstand, and it wouldn't get any better. And I even had a treatment with her in Paris with a doggy osteopath, which was really cute. But
I
that
didn't
didn't
know
help
there was
either.
such a thing.
There is such thing, yeah. But that didn't help either. And then just coincidentally, you came out with that supplement and I put her on it because it was easier than giving her the NMN and the Citroen 6 and everything in her food. 2 weeks into taking that supplement, she stopped limping and she hasn't limped since. And it's been about 6 months, I think, since you guys came out with that supplement.
Yeah.
So that's pretty incredible. That supplement, because it has the addition of MSM and
Yes.
the high molecular weight hyaluronic acid, correct?
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
so it's very, very, very good for your pet's joints as well as overall health. We know that the main way that SIRT6 activator works is through reducing inflammatory markers and reducing inflammation in the body. Maybe we'll get onto a bit more about that later, but that makes sense. It correlates with the results you're seeing with Sam. So yeah, I'm very happy that it works so well.
And she thinks it's a treat. Every morning she begs for it.
This is one of the things we found is because obviously with humans, we're all very busy and sometimes we can be a bit like, oh, I got to take my supplements. Whereas the pure pet treats, your pet will remind you. They'll make sure that they get it because they want to take it, right? So it's a different framework.
My husband, he's so critical. He thinks all of this is snake oil. But, you know, I could technically have a placebo effect from all these supplements. But obviously, Sam doesn't know she's taking this. She thinks it's a treat. And I have seen such improvements with her. So obviously, it's not a placebo effect. So that's the nice thing, too. She shows us, or our pets show us that these supplements actually do work.
Well, that's the thing. And this is the reason I got into this whole longevity sector so many years ago in the first place. Because when I was growing up, I was taught aging isn't malleable. There's nothing you can do about it. Nothing's going to be able to change it. And then when I saw the science, it was like, oh, actually, this is real. And this is why I started to work on it. And this is why I get so involved with the research side of things. And there are always going to be people that sort of go, oh, I'm not sure about that because it doesn't sound realistic. But again, like you said, this is the reason why we have placebo-controlled trials. And this is also the reason why using animals can be a good thing. There are some benefits because, as you said with Sam's not going to have a placebo. Sam just thinks it's a treat.
Yes. Now, going back to SIRT6 activator really briefly, 2 questions on it. Why did the color change? They used to be white, now they're brown. And the second question is, tell us really briefly, what is it made of?
So we source it from seaweed. And the problem is the ingredient that we use in the seaweed, it depends on the batch of seaweed, whether or not it activates SIRT6. So this is why we had to sort of name it SIRT6 activator. And we couldn't just call it the ingredient, the seaweed ingredient, because not all of that ingredient activates SIRT6. So we have to test each batch essentially to make sure that it, Professor Gorbanova does it for us at her lab at the University of Rochester in New York State. And so it's actually very difficult to procure because we can get a whole batch, send it to her, and it's not adequate. Some batches even inhibit SIRT6 activity. That's why the process takes so long in order for us to make it. And that's why we're not always fully stocked. And what was the other question? Why does it change color? Yeah, so because we're getting it from different batches from different parts of the world, different parts of the sea, it's always going to be a slightly different shade. And then in terms of actual capsule size and shape, we're always trying to improve. We're constantly improving and iterating all of our products, not just SIRT6 activator. So there may be some changes over time.
The ingredient you're talking about in the seaweed is fucoidion?
Yeah, fucoidion. Yeah, that's right.
Now, since we just talked about the color of the supplements changing here and there, this has nothing to do with the supplements itself, but somebody wanted to know, and I want to know too, why have the containers gotten bigger?
Like I say, we're always testing out and trying to improve the product. At the moment, we have 2 container sizes, so a large one and a small one. The problem was with the large one, some of the capsule sizes are different. A hyaluronic acid capsule is very small, and NMN capsule is quite large. And so a 366 pot of hyaluronic acid was using the same size tub. And so what we're looking at is introducing a 3rd tub, which is being in between size, just to try and save on for the environment. That's essentially what we're doing. So we're working on that at the moment, and those things can't be brought in on one day because of the way the stock rotation works. So they have to be phased in over a period of time.
Have you ever thought about having biodegradable pouches that the supplements come in that we can then just fill in our containers?
We were actually working on that. And the reason it got put on the back burner is because we're looking towards the end of 2024 to introducing powders. So it would be sort of like maybe 2 or 3 powders that contain everything that we recommend. And then that would be done in a sort of more packaging efficient way. So that was the reason that the pouch idea got shelved.
Good. As long as you're working on it, that makes me happy.
Oh, yeah.
Now let's get back to the questions. Probably because my desert island supplement is NMN and I talk about it so frequently, I get a lot of questions on it. Many of them you and I have answered either together or separately, but I realize not everybody is watching those videos. So the first one is, well, let's backtrack really fast. NMN, nicotinamide mononucleotide, is an NAD precursor. NAD is one of the most important molecules we have in our body that unfortunately, as well as so many things, and declines with age. And it's a big factor why we age, why we don't feel as good as we used to when we're younger, why inflammation and all of these things happen. Boosting that NAD can obviously be quite beneficial. And myself and many of my viewers have noticed a huge difference doing so. In fact, I just recently shared with you, my mother-in-law has MS. She's doing okay, she's on medication, but for about 2 years, I said to her, you need to try some NMN. So right now we're staying with her here in Ohio. So the first 2 weeks, every morning, I mixed up some NMN in water and gave it to her. She was very skeptical. About 10 days into it, she said, you know what, I can feel a difference. And she went online and she ordered it. So that's huge to me because she's just like my husband, so skeptical. But she noticed a big difference. She said she slept better and she had more energy. And both of those, of course, are huge. But that brings me to the first question I get frequently, how to take NMN. Personally, I put mine in water. Some people ask me, should they take it sublingually? Should they take it liposomally? What's your opinion?
Yeah, so the liposomes, definitely not. The most important thing for people to remember is if you see something on the DoNotAge website, then that is in its most bioavailable form. So if liposomes would improve it, we would provide it in liposomes. And they don't. For the vast majority of supplements, that's true. Sublingually will still work just fine. You will still raise your NAD levels, but there's no substantial difference between doing that and just taking it by swallowing it. The only difference you'll get is it will eventually rot away your teeth because NMN is quite acidic. For us, swallowing the NMN is the best way to do it. If you have powder, just in a little bit of water, stir it up, swallow it straight down. If you take the capsules, have them by your bed as soon as you wake up in the morning. Your 2 capsules, swallow it with water, done.
I agree with you. I took it in the beginning when I started, before I took DoNotAge NMN, I fell down that sort of the belief that liposomally or sublingually would be better. A liposomal, I realized, didn't make any difference. And I'm a big fan of certain liposomal supplements. I make my own liposomal vitamin C, and I definitely think it improves delivery. But with NMN, I didn't notice any difference. Then I went the sublingual route and gave myself 5 cavities. So it definitely, and it didn't improve my well-being. I get the same benefits just putting it in some water. But that's something I really appreciate about you guys, because there are many companies out there that will take advantage of this trend of liposomal or sublingual, and they will sell you something at a higher price with a delivery system that doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it all comes down to whether you look at things short term or long term. Even though we use our profits to put back into research, if I wanted to increase those profits and put a load more money into research, we could do things that wouldn't be for the benefit of the health of our members and make more money. That's not what we're interested in. DoNotAge is going to be around for hundreds and hundreds of years. That's the plan. And we're going to keep our members around for a similar amount of time as well. That's the whole plan. And so in order to do that, it's just about making sure that you provide what actually works. People go to our website and they don't have to go, do I need this? It's more a case of, do I want this?
So going back to NMN, another question is, does it have to be refrigerated? And I'm actually guilty of saying it has to be refrigerated, but I recently learned from you it actually doesn't.
No. So the reason for this is because obviously NMN was popularized by Dr. David Sinclair. And when back in 2019, if you had some NMN, then it was the safest bet to keep it refrigerated. But now, since it's been stabilized many years ago. And I think every genuine NMN supplier uses the stabilized NMN now. So as long as you get it from a legitimate source, obviously don't leave it, if you live in the desert, don't leave it in direct sunlight. But aside from that, room temperature is absolutely fine.
Okay. What about if somebody, like I do, mixes it up in water, but sips it throughout the day? Is it going to become less potent? Does it destabilize?
I don't know, but my gut feeling would be to not do that. My gut feeling would be, if you want to do that, do a small scoop in a little bit of water and then put the NMN back. And then when you want the next one, grab it again and put that in the water. That's what I would do.
Another question I get frequently on NMN, and again, I've covered this, we've covered it together, and I will link all of those videos down below. But is NMN, well, it's sort of a two-part question. Is NMN all I need to take is the question, which you just said you don't need to take any of those. The question is, do you want to take them? But I also understand it is, do I need to take something with NMN to make it more effective? Again,
there is some confusion around this a lot of the time, because NMN and SIRT6 activator go together so well. NMN and resveratrol, because NMN is often seen as the fuel, and then SIRT6 and resveratrol are the accelerated pedals for SIRT1 and SIRT6 respectively. But the only thing you actually really need to take with NMN is TMG. So pure TMG, it's not an expensive ingredient. It acts as a methyl donor. And so essentially what NMN is a precursor to NAD. And raising NAD is the goal here. That's what we want to do. In order for that conversion process to take place in the body from NMN to NAD, it requires methyl groups. And so taking trimethylglycine helps ensure that more of your NMN becomes NAD.
Mm-hmm. Now, trimethylglycine, TMG, like you said, works great with NMN, but it doesn't necessarily have to be TMG. It could be any methyl donor, such as methylfolate, methylcobalamin. Okay.
Exactly.
But TMG obviously also has some other benefits.
Yeah, that's right. It has some glycine content. It's healthy for your liver. We provide TMG. It tends to be the most popular one, but as Claudia quite rightly says, any methyl donor will work.
And for me personally, I am quite sensitive, and many are because of gene mutations, to certain methyl donors. Mm-hmm. I can take TMG every day at a higher dose. I take the same amount as I take NMN. I could not do that with methylfolate or methylcobalamin. I would bounce off the walls. So for me, that is my methyl donor of choice, is TMG. Another question I get quite frequently, I'm sure you do too. Obviously, the goal is to raise NAD. Why don't we just take NAD? Logical question.
So the NMN molecule is been referred to as in the Goldilocks zone, because it's sort of a direct precursor to NAD. So there's not much the body needs to do to convert it into NAD, but it's also small enough to be absorbed in the gut. So the problem with NAD itself as a molecule is too large. And so when you take an NAD supplement, less than 5% of it actually goes in through your gut, whether that's, liposome or whatever kind of form it's in. Yeah, taking NAD is not going to work directly. The only way to get NAD directly in is IV drip, which they're relatively popular now, NAD IVs. But of course, you would then need one at least every 48 hours. And that's just not really feasible for most people, and prohibitively expensive as well. So the best way we find for people to continually raise NAD levels is to take NMN every day.
I have been on NMN now for about 3 years. And so
Yep.
I think it's been 4 years for me. Long term, are there any concerns? Have you heard anything as far as long term? It is a form of vitamin B3, so it is something that is found in food, but of course we are taking it in big quantities. Is there any concern as far as taking it long term and keep taking that precursor to activate NAD?
Absolutely not. So when we've taken people and taken them off NMN, all that happens is their NAD level returns to baseline, and then they continue that ever gradual decrease that they would have had naturally. So no, we're definitely not concerned about long-term use. Obviously, if we were, we wouldn't be providing it. Like for me personally, I'm going to take it until the day I die, which is hopefully a very, very long way away.
I hope so too, fingers crossed. The last question I have is regarding fisetin and quercetin. Both of them are polyphenols. There also, fisetin is a strong senolytic compound, quercetin a very weak one. The question is on how to take it. So I personally take quercetin daily, twice a day, morning and evening, because I really feel that it helps my nose to stay clear.
Yeah.
Personally, I take fisetin only once a month for a few days at a higher dose. I came to that conclusion because of a trial that was done at the Mayo Clinic, and it made sense to me. And I also find it convenient to not have another supplement I take every single day. But obviously, there are other ways to take it. So what would you say the optimal way of taking both or either one, fisetin and quercetin is?
Quercetin is definitely daily, but in terms of fisetin or fisetin, the optimal way isn't known yet. So you can see the theory for both, taking it daily in a smaller dose or taking it once a month or once a week, whatever some people do, in a much, much larger dose. I can understand why people would do that. For me personally, I'm still early 30s, so I take one fisetin capsule per day and just keep it at that. And I think that does a good job of keeping my senescent cells away, clearing them away. But yeah, in terms of quercetin, there's definitely no argument. It's every day to take your quercetin, particularly if you're somebody that takes resveratrol as well, because we know that quercetin increases the effectiveness of resveratrol. So hopefully that answers the question.
That's good to know. Now, let's back up really briefly. It was my fault. I just went into senolytic compounds without explaining, again, for somebody that is new here, without explaining what is a senolytic compound and what are senescent cells and why don't we want them. So just really briefly.
Senescent cells, often referred to as zombie cells, it's when the cell is supposed to sort of die and it doesn't die properly. And so it goes into this zombie state and it gives off inflammatory cytokines and bad vibes in the body and affects all the cells around it. And so one of the things your body needs to do is then clear away those senescent cells, because otherwise they accumulate over time. And so, as you can imagine, as we age, the older we get, the more we have, the worse it is for the rest of our body. And then a senolytic is a compound that you take that clears away those senescent cells. Quercetin is a very, very mild senolytic. If that's your aim, is to get rid of senescent cells, I wouldn't use quercetin for that personally. Fisetin is the most powerful natural senolytic, and that's the one we provide for that purpose.
And there was a great study actually showing that fisetin or fisetin is the strongest of the natural senolytic compounds, much stronger than quercetin. It's basically like Pac-Man eating up those senescent cells.
Yes, exactly.
I think these are all the questions.
Okay.
Let's talk about, thank you for answering them. Let's talk about what's new at DoNotAge.
I'll start research side because that's the stuff that I enjoy. There is an ongoing human clinical trial being conducted in the UK. The team are looking at sort of exercise paired with quercetin, because obviously for us, the vast majority of our members are exercising most days at least, and the sort of impact that's going to have on age-associated DNA repair and epigenetic modifications. Trial was started in September of 2023. And so, we know that DNA damage is a major factor in aging, but we just want to understand more about the data in humans, because there's a lot of animal data on that. So yeah, this data is going to be done on humans. We're going to be testing sort of lifestyle interventions, and the essence of the trial is to confirm the findings from the animal studies and make sure that they relate to humans as well. So we're very, very excited. All the participants are already fully going into it. We've got about 2 more months until we finish the data collection. And then obviously, as soon as we have the results, the final results, we'll be emailing them out as usual. We have another study that we're going to be using bumblebees to find out if NMN helps them cognitively after they've been exposed to pesticides. This can help in 2 ways, because the study could potentially help save the bees, but it would also give us an indication of NMN's power to reverse pesticide damage, because all of us are now taking in pesticides. So then we might be able to see that translate to humans down the line, which is another exciting one. And then, of course, we have the Certic human trial that's still going ahead. And we are very confident that those that have had tumors that take Certix activator will see a reduced recurrence of tumors. So that's obviously very exciting. We have new products such as the Pure Pet, but you've already mentioned that. So basically all your favorite longevity ingredients now for your pet. And this was very much a member-led one as well. That's what got us going down that line, because obviously we focus our research on humans, but we just had so many people saying, oh, it's so difficult. I've got to open these capsules and put them in this dog food, in the catnip and all this kind of stuff. And so we said, all right, we'll try and get a pet product sorted. And we've managed to really, really perfect it. It took us a couple of years, but again, as you can imagine, that launch has been very, very successful. And Sam is a good advert for us.
Let's backtrack really fast to the SIRT6 activator trial. You kind of glossed over that one, but I think it's a very important one. Sure. So first of all, you did a trial on mice. That was very successful, correct? Yes. So tell us just a tiny bit about that trial.
Sure thing. So we took a group of mice, obviously with a control group as well, normal mouse food, and then another group that was given SIRT6 activator. And the group taking SIRT6 activator lived a lot longer. They were already sort of middle to older age mice. It reversed a lot of the problems they'd already started to see. Everything improved in terms of their frailty score, their vision, their gait, their walking speed, grip strength, all that kind of stuff. All got better, the ones that were taking SIRT6 activator, and they also lived a hell of a lot longer and didn't get age-related diseases. The trial lasted a lot longer than we expected to because all the SIRT6 mice were still alive. And so in the end, we just had to say, look, we're going to have to stop at some point because we need to harvest the data, as it were, and get that published. So we were only a few months into it when we said, right, human trials are needed. So we already started the conversation about those human trials a while ago. And Professor Gorbanova believed that the best way to show a big impact would be to take people that have already had cancer but been through chemotherapy and recovered, and split those into two groups, one with a control supplement and one with SIRT6 activator. And we believe the group taking SIRT6 activator will see a reduced reoccurrence of tumors.
That's amazing. How long are you planning on running that trial? Do you know?
It will take several years, unfortunately. So there's no this one's definitely not going to be this year, and probably not next year either. But these are long-term human trials, but we're very confident.
That would be pretty amazing. That would be quite hopeful for people with a history of cancer, or anybody, because none of us want to get cancer. So that's pretty incredible. One thing you haven't mentioned is Kleinac. It's a supplement you've had for a while, but I just recently came across a study showing that it is quite promising as far as cognitive decline. Okay. So talk a little bit about Kleinac, glycine, and NAC. Why the combination?
Glycine has many benefits. Obviously, we know there's some in TMG as well. And then N-acetylcysteine, which is, some of your viewers may remember it as having gone through the similar issues that NMN went through. Because it was shown to be so powerful, there was drug companies that came in and said, try to make NAC a drug. And there was a big hoo-ha about that. And thankfully, the people won, and NAC has continued to be available on the open market. Yeah, essentially what scientists found was that putting glycine and NAC together, commonly referred to as Kleinac, had amazing results. And they believed these results came from Kleinac's ability to increase glutathione. The impacts of that could be many, one of which stopping neurodegenerative diseases and reducing cognitive decline.
And I want to stress again what we said in the beginning. When you go on your website, it can be quite confusing. There are many supplements, many of them are amazing, but you don't need to take them. It's what do you want to take and what sort of benefits do you want to feel?
Exactly.
Is there anything else you would like to add?
No, I guess just the final thing from me is thank you very much, Claudia, for having us on and spreading the word and doing a great job with your channel. Thank you, everybody that asked a question as well. Hopefully, you've got some answers there from me, and I look forward to doing it again. Let's do it again in a few months. If anybody's got any other questions, leave them in the comments, subscribe, whatever the vernacular is for YouTube.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia.